Welcome everyone to week 3 of our 5-week free, notice I said free, webinar on inclusive leadership in the modern workplace. We have had exciting sessions lined up for you today. We started off with week 1, exploring emotional intelligence and strategies for building diverse teams in previous sessions. And today we're going to focus on technology's critical role in fostering efficiency and productivity in the workplace and in school. I use that a lot. I am a virtual instructor, as well as I use smart boards in my classrooms. And so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Pat Parrish. I am the founder and CEO of Dallas Diversity 24/7. I want to thank you again, mostly for joining us for this 3rd week of a 5-week free webinar. I decided to do this as a 5-week free webinar because there were so many people that I have heard have shared with me that they could not afford the information sharing that is out there. So I took it upon myself with 2 other nationally recognized DEB firms and said, let's just do an hour for 5 weeks of information sharing, and then we can come back and perhaps the leaders can learn. So in week 1, as I mentioned, we had the privilege of hearing Dr. Tammy Hodo. Now, if you haven't heard Tammy, she is a phenomenal speaker. She's a 2-time TEDx speaker, and she spoke on emotional intelligence in leadership. A lot of us don't know about emotional intelligence. I share with my husband a lot, emotional intelligence. A lot of people just say, what is that? And so that she did a phenomenal job on what it is. She did an enlightenment session on what it is. You can only control what you have. You can't control anybody else. And we had a lot of takeaways from that. And then we followed up with Lori Bishop. She is an HR, I call her a champion, HR champion, because she has done so much with her small company, taking them from not knowing anything about DEIB to being recognized as one of the best companies to work for. Her company is PCI. It's a publishing company. What they do is they do a lot of surveys for campuses and companies, and how is your, let's say, for example, if you went to Texas A&M, how is your experience with Texas A&M? They do a lot of those surveys, but you can't do it if you don't know about DEI. And then, of course, today we will explore, and I say explore, technology tools for efficiencies, productivity, and an inclusive workshop. And I was so impressed with Yvonne. I was there, and I apologize for not being able to allow her to just bring all of the information that she had at the South Dallas Business and Professional Women's Club. And I've just been so impressed with her that I had to find a way to bring her back to share. And so once again, I want to thank you all for attending. And without further ado, please welcome Yvonne Odemi.
Yes, look at you, perfect.
Yeah, Odemi to the virtual stage. Without further ado, Yvonne, please take the stage.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And thank you for being here and for welcoming me and being so inviting and warm and welcoming me to have conversations with you and with all the fantastic teams that you work with, because it's been awesome for me to get to know ladies that inspire me. And I've really enjoyed walking along beside and getting a chance to show some things that I've learned, and then also learning a lot in return. So appreciate the warm welcome and the hospitality. So today we're going to have a great discussion. I'm really looking forward to it because I get to learn just as much from the folks that are attending as you might think that you're going to learn from me. So it's a little bit selfish in that regard, because what we're going to be talking about is how technology can help enable and facilitate the inclusive workspace, workplace, the teams that we are all trying to build, that we're endeavoring to build. In your work, Pat, you've got to, you're going to be, you're going to be dealing with a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So a lot of what you said in the introduction really resonated with me, because as I'm trying to pull from different parts of my experience to pull together content just to have conversation with you guys today, all those themes that you encounter on a daily basis were springing forth and really helping to drive a lot of what we're going to discuss today. So today we're going to be talking about have three main objectives. And let me see if I can advance these slides. And y'all bear with me, because sometimes Zoom is cooperative and sometimes it's not. But okay, today it's looking like it's going to be fairly cooperative. So that's good, especially because it's going to be recorded so that anybody who comes forth here in a while is going to be able to listen to this and learn from it as well. And I'm working from two screens today as well. So if my head feels like it's on a swivel, that is why. So just want to talk to you a little bit today about technology being this very key and integral part of our lives, and how it can facilitate the diverse workspaces that we are trying to build. We know that the people who are entrusted to be team members with us, and as we are moving forward as leaders, we have to be very cognizant of the differences and the backgrounds and experiences of all the people that work with us in the workplace, but also let's just talk about our professional lives, clubs and organizations that we would be part of, sports teams that people may play on, different types of social interactions that we have. We have to be able to respect and honor the diversity and the difference and also the similarities between all of the folks that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. That's about respecting the person and making sure that they are able to show up in any of the spaces that we navigate as a whole and respected person in a safe space in their interactions with us. Technology really can help to underpin some of that. And that's what I want to talk about today. I think it's really important as we go through all of our discussions today to remember that while technology can facilitate many of these things, the skills that you already have that are important in team building and relationship building, those are really the key and core things. Technology is just kind of like a wrapper around those skills that you already possess and the things that you already know that are important. Technology helps to facilitate them, can help to accelerate some of the adoption of these things. But the key principles are ones that you're already very, very familiar with. And those are many of the things that you guys can actually be teaching me. So we can use technology ethically and responsibly to create the environment where we can celebrate the diversity in our team members and the folks that we interact with. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So really quickly, I want to give you an overview of what I wanted to talk about today. So we're going to be doing a quick introduction. Actually, we already did that. Just kind of talking about a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. And then I want to talk a little bit about productivity and efficiency in the workplace. And then in particular, how technology and data helps to facilitate that. I want to talk about using technology to enhance diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So we'll be talking through a little bit of that. And then also, while we're introducing technology into our lives, it's really, really important to remember that technology can either introduce or exacerbate the feeling of distraction and overwhelm that many of the people that we encounter are going to be dealing with. I don't know about you, but I often feel very overwhelmed with all the inputs that are coming at me faster and faster and faster these days. And the speed of those inputs coming into your life, into your sphere, is actually propelled forward by the presence of technology in your life. I'm a very plugged in, connected person, not huge social media necessarily, but definitely very tech heavy and very tech friendly. I love technology. I really do love adopting new things, learning new things, but I also am cognizant of the fact that there is the requirement for all of us to be well by unplugging, getting some distance, and then also building in processes to manage the pace of technology in our lives. Because unchecked, unencumbered, unrestricted, restricted, it will actually make you less able to facilitate the kind of team building and inclusive workspaces that you're trying to build. And it'll be totally counterproductive to what you're trying to accomplish. So it's important to include a conversation about digital well-being, managing digital inputs, all the digital inputs that you're going to receive, and managing any digital overwhelm that you may feel. So I wanted to include that as a talking point in this conversation today as well. And then we're going to wrap up, and if you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, and would love for this to be a dialogue and a nice, relaxed conversation. So we have a handful of learning objectives. And so by the time we kind of wrap up today, I'm going to know that you should be more comfortable with and have more of your arms around the ability to evaluate and choose some productivity tools that are going to align with your needs and your preferences in building the workplaces that you're trying to build and navigate. I also want you to be able to deploy some strategies for managing email overload, because I don't know about you guys, but my inbox is a very scary place to be. Pat, I see you nodding your head. Did you have anything you wanted to chime in and share an experience about?
That was going to be my first question. How do I manage these thousands of emails in my inbox? Even though I have filters on, I have filters for special people, I have filters for junk mail, but they continue to grow. How do I manage those emails?
I have some tips and tricks, and what I might do is, because it sounds like that is a hot button issue for you, I might go a little bit, spend a little bit less time on the other two components and really kind of key in with this group on managing digital overwhelm, because it's a very real thing. And even though I am very tech friendly and I love technology, I still encounter the same feeling of overwhelm. And so what I have found is that you have to implement systems, processes to manage any of the inputs in your life. And the learnings that you take with in dealing with offline inputs are some of the same learnings that you can apply with dealing with the emails, the text messages, the voicemails, the feeling like there's always a perpetual inbox, because technically, every one of these is an inbox. It's somebody else asking you to do something that may or may not align with what you intended to do that day, that hour, that week, whatever. So I will spend a little bit more time then on managing the digital overwhelm, because it's a very, very real thing. I also want to talk with you guys today about utilizing technology so that you can streamline some of those processes and save time. So that's going to also funnel into dealing with digital overwhelm. So trying to give you some really concrete ways that you can manage this. And then also I want to talk about so you can help you learn to use data so you can ID and address any of the gaps that you might have in your workspaces when it comes to inclusivity and productivity. So, and then finally, enhancing your digital literacy skills and also the digital literacy skills of the folks that are on your teams, so that you can. Oh, and that's Siri talking to me. Sorry about that. So that you can thrive in that inclusive workplace that we're all trying to build. So apologies, because Siri is getting a little bit chatty today. All right. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and go quickly through some of these first two sections, just because I want to make sure that we leave time to have the conversation about the digital overwhelm that I know is so important. So let's talk first about promoting productivity and efficiency in the workplace. So we talk about having a diverse and inclusive workplace, but in order to build that, you have to be thoughtful and you have to be intentional. It doesn't come about by accident. So we're going to talk about some strategies that'll help foster the inclusive work environment that we're looking for. And let me quickly go through. It's just I think in a very linear fashion sometimes. So I think in bulleted lists, I think in tables. So you'll see a lot of that structure here. And I hope you don't feel the need to take notes or do a whole lot of writing, because I'm going to share with you not only this slide deck, but also a leave behind document that has a whole lot more detail with all of this information, plus some resources if you want to read, podcasts if you want to listen to them, blog posts, websites, lots of information. So you don't have to take a single note to even be able to come back and reference all this information later. So when you're talking about promoting productivity and efficiency in an inclusive workplace, there are some strategies that you're going to have to use to foster that workplace that we all want. So you want to start by cultivating the inclusive culture. That means that you are fostering a culture that values and celebrates diversity. It helps when you're encouraging the open communication, respecting the different perspectives that you're going to see, and sharing of ideas. And it helps also that you're creating a safe space where all your employees, all of your team members feel comfortable expressing themselves. We also want you to, as a strategy, provide diversity and inclusion training. So this is kind of like preaching to the choir for this team, right? So everyone here is very well versed on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. But it really helps when you're able to offer those regular training sessions to employees on such topics as like unconscious bias and cultural sensitivity, inclusive communication. It helps to raise their awareness. It helps promote understanding, and it provides tools for helping them navigate diverse work environments, right as you are helping to build the diverse work environment that they're going to be able to thrive in. You want to make sure that you're building diverse teams as well. So you want to encourage diversity in your team composition, because those diverse teams, they bring together various experiences, perspectives, skill sets that make the team richer. You have more innovative and creative solutions that come about as a result of having a diverse team. So we want to ensure that all of the team members have equal opportunities for growth and advancement within diverse teams. You also want to establish those clear goals and expectations for your team, for the individuals and the team. So collectively and individually. That provides a sense of purpose, common direction. It allows employees to focus on their tasks and ensures that all of their goals are aligned with the organization's overall objectives, the organization's values. And then also the last bullet point on this page is fostering collaboration and teamwork. So again, I don't think I have to tell you guys, right? You want to encourage collaboration and teamwork among employees from different backgrounds. It helps to create opportunities for cross-functional projects, any team building activities, knowledge sharing sessions. All those things are richer if you have a collaborative and teamwork-oriented environment. As an additional strategy, you want to have flexible work policies. We have heard so much about these flexible work policies in the days since COVID, right? It seems like it's coming up more and more these days. But this is a huge reason why we're able to attract and retain diverse and very experienced talent. But also it's a reason why we see some teams are hemorrhaging talent, because they're not able to create the flexible work policies that respect the needs of the individual and meet the individual where they are. So implementing those policies that are flexible for our employees and our teams, it helps to accommodate the diverse needs and promote the work-life balance that our employees and our team members are seeking. We also want to reward and recognize any inclusive behavior that we see developing and coming to the surface on the team. We want to acknowledge these contributions from employees, team members, and it can be done through formal recognition programs, performance evaluations. There are a lot of touch points where we can recognize and reward any inclusive behavior or actions that we're seeing. Simple gestures like expressing gratitude or appreciation are easy to do. And again, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. We also want to provide resources and support for our team members and employees so that they have access to things like mentorship programs, employees, resource groups, affinity networks, things of that nature that help create that sense of belonging. And they provide guidance and they offer support systems for people, especially those who are from underrepresented groups who may not have other people that look like them or have a common experience as they do. And it helps them get exposure to more people organizationally who have that kind of common background, and you're able to speak in shorthand. They immediately feel more comfortable, and that helps us to retain those team members. We also we want to, as a strategy, foster effective communication amongst our teams. We want to have that open and transparent communication across all levels of our organization. You want to establish those channels for idea sharing, concern eliciting, and then giving feedback. And then finally, and almost most importantly, you want to lead by example. I don't have to tell this group that leaders should exemplify inclusive behavior. You have to demonstrate empathy. You have to actively promote diversity and inclusion initiatives. You have to. When you set the tone and prioritize inclusivity, it creates that ripple effect through the organization. So these strategies are the ones that help to promote productivity and efficiency in the workplace, but there are ways to facilitate these strategies with technology solutions. And so that's what I want to dive into here, because I think that is very important. And remember, these supportive technologies are really all about doing the things that we just talked about as strategies. So it's going to be focused on open communication amongst members of the team, hearing the different ideas, all the teams, so that we can respect and honor the ideas that are coming from the team, and then also sharing those ideas within the team. So those, though the technology that I'm bringing up today, that I'm discussing today, is all about ensuring that we're supporting the strategies that we just discussed by facilitating communication, idea sharing, and innovation sharing. So we have tools in about, I think it's 8 buckets of tools that we have. So let's talk first about collaboration tools. So these collaboration tools are going to be like platforms like Microsoft Teams and Slack, Google Workspaces. They provide chat functionality, things like video conferencing and file sharing capabilities. If you think about what these tools do, it's all about communication. They enable real-time communication, virtual meetings, document collaboration, allowing team members to exchange ideas virtually, but easily. So that is really helpful when you're talking about open lines of communication and then also flexible work policies, right? So thinking about how all of these tool sets fit into the strategies we just talked about. So let's think about collaboration tools as one tool in your tool set that you're going to want when you're talking about an inclusive workplace. Also, project management software. And I'm talking about tools that you may have heard of, like Asana or Trello. Trello is one of the most widely used because it's available to everybody. It's a very, very robust product, even in its free form. Jira is another one. And these are tools that help teams organize, set priorities, track progress. They facilitate transparent communication when they're used in group settings because they provide that central repository of information, a centralized platform for team members to discuss project-related matters, share updates with each other, and address challenges collectively. So project management software is a great tool to have in your toolkit when you're talking about building the inclusive workspace. You also have Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to share, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of the times people do not realize that they can use those project management software tools in club meetings. Yes. When you're on a subcommittee of a club, say, for example, Sylvia is on the I believe she's on Adopt a School. That is an excellent tool for her to keep track for all of the things that she has to do in order to make sure that her leadership role as Adopt a School, the nursing homes, that is awesome. I learned that, and I've actually learned that at home. You know, in any type of project that I have, I've learned that I have not been I'm not as astute in Slack and Google Workspace as the others, but I am familiar with Asana, and I'm going to learn a lot about Jira and Truly.
Oh, you just went on mute, Pat.
And especially going into the new club year and the new school year, I have 2 classes that I teach face-to-face, but I also have a class that I teach, several classes that I teach virtually. So that's something that I need, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I use many of these tools. I use Asana, and I use Trello, and I use them in different facets of work. And I love the fact that they are cross-platform, so they work regardless of what ecosystem you use, because they're both web-based tools. So if you're a PC fan, or if you like Macs, they work on both of those. They work across iPhones, Android. So having those tools always with you, regardless of the platform you choose to use, is fantastic. And so I use them all. Did I hear another question come up as well? Nope. Okay. All right. So we also have another tool in our toolkit related to online discussion forums. And I'm talking about things like Microsoft Yammer or Reddit, or online community software, something like Discourse. And you may or may not use these as much. And right now, Reddit is kind of going through some things. So the future of Reddit is a little bit uncertain, but certainly there are these online discussion forums that allow people to engage in threaded discussions on specific topics. And that is the same kind of thing that you can also use in a workplace to promote open dialogue, encourage exchange of diverse opinions and ideas, and provide a space for sharing those ideas as well in a structured manner. So don't discount the role of the online discussion forum when it comes to trying to promote the inclusivity of all members of the team, and try and make sure that you're hearing the thought process, the ideas for every member of the team. Even our folks who may be a little less vocal, a little bit more reluctant to speak up, they all can be benefited by sometimes getting behind a keyboard, a little bit more anonymous feeling, a little bit more at a distance, and it feels sometimes safer to speak your mind when you're using an online discussion forum or a tool to express yourself. Idea management platforms are also a great tool when it comes to getting the ideas of the collective in a central place and sharing those amongst other members of the team. And I'm talking about some tools, and these are a little bit lesser known, but things like Idea Node or something called Spigot, and then also Idea Scale. They basically enable teams to collect and manage ideas from employees. So this is a structured way for individuals to submit suggestions, comment on other people's ideas, collaborate, and refine concepts that may be coming to the forefront. So if you think about brainstorming, it really works because you can kind of get in a room collectively and have people kind of go around and build off of each other's ideas. This is a way to get that documented and allow ideas to continue building and building and building, but it's actually documented as they're building. So again, a great way for many people to contribute to ideas that move the team forward. We also have, and I told you I had a whole lot of tools. So there's also a virtual whiteboarding and mind mapping tool. So these are really helpful. I know some of y'all might be more familiar with the increasing number of ads that you're hearing for things like Miro. I don't know if you've heard of that tool being advertised before, but these are basically virtual whiteboards. And then there are also mind mapping tools that can be used. There's Mural, there's Lucid Chart, there's a mind mapping tool that I'm forgetting the name of it now. There's iThought, that's a mind mapping tool that I've used in the past. So these are just virtual whiteboards, mind mapping features that are built into some of these tool sets. They facilitate that visual collaboration that allows team members to brainstorm ideas, and you organize information, you create diagrams and flowcharts together. And you can do these using these virtual tools regardless of your physical location. So when we talked about flexible work policies, and you're talking about trying to figure out how to increase collaboration amongst people who may be in different geographies, different time zones, and definitely different physical spaces, these are some tools that you can use for collective co-ideation. So it's very, very helpful when you're talking about a diverse workspace that respects, the opinions of so many people. This is a great way to collaborate and ideate together. We also have our video conferencing and webinars, so our good old-fashioned video conferencing tools that you're very familiar with. We're on one right now, Zoom. Fantastic, extremely popular platform, very, very rich and robust. But there are other alternatives that we're aware of and we've heard of, Google Meet and Microsoft Teams and WebEx, all those are all fantastic. They enable that face-to-face communication just like we have right now. They also have virtual meetings, webinars, exactly what we're on right now. Active engagement amongst the team are what these tools are meant to bring about. You allow team members to present their ideas, participate in discussions, provide feedback in real time, and you get that face-to-face, eyes-on connection between people, even though they're separated by miles, continents, and even across geographies and time zones. You also have your social intranet platforms, and I'm calling them intranet platforms because they're workplace specific. So we have social media sites, right? Like your Facebooks and your Instagrams and all that stuff that's external, but these are intranet platforms. I think I have a typo here and I'll modify that, but these are actually more intranets because they're internal to organizations, things like SharePoint by Microsoft and Workplace by Facebook. They provide social networking features, but inside of an organization that allows employees to share updates, create communities of interest, amongst affinity groups, engage in discussions, all of that. So great ways for people to find community inside of their organizations. And then finally, polling and surveying tools like SurveyMonkey, Typeform. You might have heard of Mentimeter, Poll Everywhere, Google Forms even. They enable teams to gather feedback, opinions, perspectives, make sure all ideas are being heard. So there are a lot of tools that you have at your avail to build these teams where everyone's perspective is solicited and you can even act on the opinions and perspectives of so many folks.
Yvonne, I have a question. I have Buffer, and there is a new channel out there called Mosey. I think it's Mosey. But there's a new channel that you can actually add to Buffer. So I was wondering, but it has several different portals. It's like Mosey International. And that's what I was going to ask you about, that platform. Are you familiar with that one, or how do you recommend that? Because that came up when I was posting my information on Buffer. It came up as an added channel, and I wasn't familiar with it. So that was going to be one of the things that I asked you today about, that additional channel, in addition to YouTube. But I think it's Mosi. I forget the name of it. It's Mosi, I believe.
MOSI. I have not heard of that. So I'm actually going to grab a piece of paper. As much as I am a high-tech person, I'm just going to grab a piece of paper and a pencil. And I'm going to write that down because I haven't heard of that channel. I've heard of Buffer as a tool, a very, very helpful tool, especially when it comes to managing your digital presence, your social media channels,
yes.
Ensure that your brand shows up in the way that you want it to in social media spaces, but I have not heard of Mosey as a channel.
You know what? It's my southern drawl and the drug. It's Mastodon.
Mastodon.
Yes, that is that's the channel.
Yeah, so Mastodon, so that's a great, I can give you some real brief information about Mastodon. So I think it's been pretty well publicized that Twitter is in the process of or already has imploded. It's depending on, kind of how much of a Twitter user you are, and how closely you've been following it. Basically, Twitter was acquired by Elon Musk. He is the CEO of Tesla. He has made some anti-user moves with Twitter. And so it's made Twitter less and less of a user-friendly place to be. And the thing about social media networks is the minute you introduce friction, people are going to start bailing, right? So he has introduced enough friction to drive away folks who have been trying to use the API, or basically the developer interface for his platform, to close down a lot of these little adjunct apps that were helping to improve the Twitter experience for many of the users. And so he has driven away a lot of users by those actions. And so even the ones that are remaining are really struggling to engage with the service, the platform, in a way that's meaningful. An alternative that has come up in recent months, I'll call it months. It's actually been around for several years, but it's getting more popularity and more traction because of the fact that it is so disaggregated and there's no central controlling person or organization that has control over all of it is Mastodon. And the reason why Mastodon has grown in popularity is because of the what's called federated nature of Mastodon. It is so disaggregated. There's no centralized control, and the centralized control is perceived as Twitter's problem. Because of the rise in hate speech, the lack of moderation that Elon Musk has brought about with his control over Twitter. Even though he has named a new CEO, that CEO is not seen as someone who is willing to make the tough decisions to counteract any of Elon Musk's moves. Therefore, they don't think that there's going to be much turning around of that ship at Twitter. So Mastodon seems to be like the anti-Twitter alternative. Mastodon is really good in that it does take some of the sting out of what has gone wrong at Twitter. The challenge with Mastodon is it is not super user-friendly because of the disaggregated nature of the control. So it is a tool that is heavily used in mostly nerd spaces. So folks like me who really are okay with spinning up their own like servers and stuff, it's a bit much for most people who are just trying to pop in and out of social media channels casually. In the past week, literally the past week, Instagram has spun up an alternative to Twitter as well, an alternative to Mastodon as well, which seemingly is having more adoption. It's called Threads. Threads actually in the first 24 hours, I believe it gained 10 million users. And now about a week later, I think we are working on 100 million. So Threads is really spinning up fast, and that's because it's so interwoven with Instagram. In fact, you can basically port all your Instagram activity over to Threads, and Threads is more of like a Twitter alternative because it's text-based, whereas Instagram allows you to keep your, very picture, reels type of social media interaction. So you can have those two accounts at the same time, and because they are basically cross-pollinating each other, you can build up your following, and you can basically spin up your own account within Threads in a very, very easy way, and it's user-friendly. You'd have to be okay with the personal data mining that Facebook, Meta, Instagram does. But Threads is an alternative that might be easier for you to use. So Pat, if you're looking for something that's a little more user-friendly than Mastodon, Threads might be, especially if you're an Instagram user or a Facebook user.
I am Instagram has been a problem because I've always had glitches in trying to get it. Because I think because of the number of words or the platform or what I can actually post. So I'm going to definitely explore that.
Okay. Yep. And Twitter started out even as having like a limit on the number of letters that you could post. Threads, I do believe, is much more generous at like starting off out of the gate. It's like 500 characters.
Oh, good.
Your I don't know what they're called. I actually have not had a chance to even stop traveling enough to explore Threads, but I'll check it out and see. But it's supposed to be a much more user-friendly alternative than Mastodon. Mastodon is great as a service and great as a concept, but what I understand is that it's just a little bit tough to use.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Not super intuitive or user-friendly.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So we have a role that technology plays and that data plays when it comes to fostering these diverse and inclusive workspaces, right? So we want to make sure that we are using technology and the data that we can get to ensure that we are promoting the diverse and inclusive workspaces that we want to see. There are lots of ways that we can leverage data, and I wanted to talk through just a handful of those today. So I've got here listed some diversity and inclusion analytics that you can use in your recruitment and retention, your hiring and retention processes. I know words. Anyway, so you can gain insight into your workplace demographics, and you can identify areas where you might have underrepresentation, and you can track your progress in creating those diverse workspaces that we're trying to build. So I would definitely recommend you using your diversity and inclusion analytics to create those targeted strategies to address bias that you might have in your workplace, improve representation by groups, and foster the inclusive culture that you're looking for. You also have the ability to use technology to mitigate bias in your recruitment and hiring processes. You can reduce your unconscious bias by using some of the automated systems that can help to anonymize applicant information. I know we've heard of some of those, right? You can also create standardized evaluation criteria so that the human beings that are part of the process don't introduce bias. You can even get some objective insights so that you can enhance fairness and equity in your hiring and recruitment processes. You also might even have heard of your artificial intelligence or AI-powered tools that can help to identify and mitigate any of the biased language that you may have that has accidentally or inadvertently crept into things like your job descriptions or your job advertisements. The tools that we have now are robust and getting even better when it comes to helping to remove the natural biases that we as human beings have, so that they don't negatively impact our organizations as we are recruiting and hiring folks to join our teams. You also have collaboration and communication tools. We just talked about some of those, right? But those project management platforms, the messaging apps, the video conferencing software, all that facilitates effective communication and collaboration across your diverse teams. And again, we've always talked about this, but it's regardless of your geographical location, regardless of time zone, even at times, depending on the tool, regardless of language barriers. So if you think about the ways that you're able to bring these, bring teams together that may not always even share a common language, based on these tools facilitating the inclusion of different cultures into your workspaces. It's really awesome, the things that we have at our avail these days to enable employees to work together and exchange their ideas and share information seamlessly. You also need to look at accessibility features and assistive technologies. I love accessibility features because the thing that you have to realize is that you're going to need an accessibility feature one day. It is guaranteed that you will use an accessibility feature at some point in your life. So yes, these features can empower individuals who have traditionally recognized disabilities, but think about the ways that we use these assistive technologies, things like screen readers or captioning tools, speech recognition software, adaptive keyboards, any other assistive devices. Have you used one? Because I know I have. If you ask me when the last time I watched a television program and I didn't have screen captions on, I couldn't tell you. I love captions because the way they're mastering TV shows and movies these days, I don't know about you, but the background music sometimes can be so loud that you can't quite hear the dialogue. So those are perfect technologies.
And and I'm glad you said that, Yvonne, because I have students that do not speak English. And so what I have encouraged them to do is to use the accessibility features and the captions so that they learn how to speak English by looking at the captions. And I do that myself in reverse. I use that for the Spanish, as well as I learn how to use that to better increase my speaking, like how I learned how to pronounce your name, your last name.
Yes.
So that is something that accessibility actually helped me. And Sylvia, I know with what you do with the Adopt a School program and with your daughter, and actually with the way you are working with the youth, this is excellent. A lot of people ignore that, or they miss out on the opportunity for accessibility features, and they don't know how to use them. They don't know what it's for. And this is an excellent opportunity to share the benefit.
It really is. Yep. It definitely is. you're going to use them at some point in your life. It's really helpful, actually, if you start to open your mind to the possibility of using them, even though you may consider yourself able-bodied and able to do things without a traditionally recognized disability. Because they're so good that they're very, very helpful to the entirety of the population. I think it is that some statistic around north of 90% of the population that uses things like smartphones or computers actually can use the accessibility features that are built into them. And like I said, the ones that I'd mentioned are things like screen readers or speech recognition devices or captioning tools. All those things are absolutely usable just to make it more convenient for you to use devices, more convenient for people around you to use their devices. And so the things that we're able to enable by recognizing that everybody, in spite of, regardless of how they may see themselves on the spectrum of ability, is able to use these assistive technologies, it's fantastic. And they're really, really great and getting better all the time.
Awesome. Thank you.
You are so welcome. I mean,
I noticed that Lavonda is saying, she says she has 3 pages of notes. She says, this is great information. I have 3 pages of notes already. So
Lavonda,
it is awesome.
You don't need to take too many notes, Lavonda, because honestly, you're going to get so much of this. You will be able to see a lot of this in the notes that I provide. I like to leave behind very detailed notes because I'm a note taker, and I like to get the notes that I like to give the notes that I would want. So you'll have some really robust information coming shortly after this. I'll give you a QR code that you can take a picture of or a website that you can go to. Also, there's some additional tools, and make sure I'm on the right side. I am. Okay, great. There are additional tools that we have that can enable and facilitate our diverse workspaces. And we talk about things like employee feedback and engagement platforms. So it helps organizations gather feedback from employees and foster that open communication culture, that inclusive culture. And I'm talking about things like surveys or suggestion boxes, digital feedback channels. Think about, giving your employees, your teams, the opportunity to engage with you and provide you feedback into their thoughts, especially if you can anonymize information and make people feel safe when providing that feedback. It's a great way to facilitate the communication that teams really need to engage with you in a rich way. You also have learning and development opportunities that you want to make sure that you have available to facilitate the development of your teams. These are and this is facilitated by technology using things like your learning platforms, your e-learning modules, your virtual training sessions. I know, Pat, you're very familiar with all of this. It helps your employees, your team members to access educational resources very conveniently whenever they want to, at their own time, on their own pace, on their own schedule. That you can use these to deliver diversity and inclusion training programs. You can promote cultural competency using some of these tools. You can enhance employee skills and knowledge just in general. Like I said, a great retention tool, a great recruitment tool. It helps to foster that inclusive and respectful and productive workplace.
This is awesome. This is awesome, Yvonne, because a lot of people only box diversity, equity, inclusion into one workplace, but you don't realize that it's actually in your lifestyle. And no matter what job what career you're doing, you have to include this, because inclusiveness and feedback and learning and development, that is going to be the key and the success to your company. So a lot of people do not understand, or they are beginning to learn that DEIB is not only in corporate, but it is in today's society.
Yes, it is. It is. And that's why when I'm talking through it today, I really like to say, yes, your employees in your team, but also you got to think about the ways that this is going to show up in other places in your life. It is not exclusively a work thing. And if you think about also what you're trying to build, even if you're trying to build this in the workplace, it's because we want our employees and our team members to show up in all the areas of their life in a whole way and engage in all areas of their lives, because that helps them to be better in the workplace. A more well-rounded person is a better employee, a better team member, a better contributor. So we want people to be well, to be respected, to be whole, to be recognized, to be seen in all aspects of their lives. And so we want to be effective where we can, even if it's just in the workplace facet of their life, because maybe they can use it as a springboard to improve other areas of their lives by taking ideas from the workplace into their personal lives and implementing them as well. You also have data-driven performance management. So I'm talking about data and analytics that help to inform fair and objective performance management practices. So what does all that mean? So you can use data to evaluate employee performance, and you can also help your organization to reduce bias. You can ensure transparency, provide growth and advancement opportunities based on merit, not based on some kind of potentially biased assessment of someone's individual characteristics. It promotes inclusivity, it promotes productivity even, because you're rewarding employees' contributions and their potential. And it is, again, regardless of personal characteristics that we all know can be subject to human bias. Just because we are human, we introduce our own bias to everything that we do. And so we want to figure out how to level the playing field and create equity and inclusion across all of our folks by using data instead of personal feeling, again, subject to bias. And then the last one on this page, again, super resonant for me, is flexible work arrangements and remote work technologies. Again, we talked about the technologies that allow us to facilitate the flexible work arrangements, but this helps to support inclusivity. And I think we're able to make the connections very well in this group because you accommodate the diverse needs and the responsibilities of the people on your teams. You got your collaboration tools, your virtual meeting platforms, your cloud-based systems. All that enables effective communication and collaboration for teams that are anywhere in the world. You get more productivity and your team gets better work-life balance. And we know that that can help to attract people, but the lack of it absolutely repels people, again, even more so now in our post-COVID world, because people are requiring, not just asking for, but requiring flexible work environments. All right, I'll keep on restarting these. Okay, so now I know this is the part that we wanted to talk about, so I want to make sure we leave lots of time for this, about managing digital distractions and optimizing technology usage so we can avoid overwhelm. So you see this picture of this woman who appears like she is over it. So this looks like me on a Friday. And you're pointing to yourself, Pat. I'm telling you, a lot of people are feeling this way. A lot of people are in this same boat. There are things that we can do, though, to manage those digital distractions and to help with everybody's well-being. It's critical. It's actually mission critical, because you're not going to be productive and you're not going to feel like you have a sense of well-being, not just digital well-being, but general well-being, unless you're able to get some of these things tamped down, under control, and do what I like to recommend to people, which is having your technology and your tools serve you as opposed to the other way around. So there are some concrete ways that we can overcome distractions and overwhelm. So it starts off with, again, a lot of offline seeming systems and processes. First and foremost, you got to set your goals and priorities. What's important? What is important? Because if what is important is not on that screen, then that's not the thing, right? Start by defining your goals on a daily, a weekly, or even project-specific basis. Break it down into manageable tasks, prioritize them. It helps you stay focused and avoid getting sidetracked by digital distractions. When it comes to planning, I like to, in my ideal world, we know that ideal never really happens, right? But in an ideal week, I'm able to sit down on a Sunday evening and plan the following week's activities. I look at meetings, calendars, what my action items need to be. And that's where I'm bringing my Trello board with me, because I want to start in my, starting position on my Trello board. And then I want to start moving things out into certain days of the week where I want to accomplish them. I want to plan my week so that I have a picture perfect week, at least on paper or on my Trello board, so that I can figure out what my priorities are. ideally even that rolls up into a monthly plan, that rolls up into a quarterly plan, and rolls up even further into an annual plan, where I like to do check-ins and understand, like, how am I performing? I don't know if you've heard of the Wheel of Life as an evaluation tool. It kind of makes you kind of rank and score yourself on 8 to 10 dimensions, depending on whose wheel of life you're looking at, that talk about how well you are performing when it comes to your spirituality, how you're doing with work, how you're doing with family interactions, how you're doing with your self-care. So you're asked to figure out how well you're prioritizing these different aspects of your life. And what you want to see is a nice full wheel across all of these dimensions, as opposed to, one dimension being way out here at a 10, another one being like down here at a 2. But that's just a way to visualize your priorities. And that's how you tamp all this down, is by making sure that you're always keeping the main thing. Never lose sight of what the overall goal is, because I will tell you that your overall goal is actually not probably long-term to respond to all your emails in 15 minutes. So if that's not your goal, how can you incorporate a sense of feeling like you're being responsive to people without being ruled and governed by a chirping email inbox? Again, setting your goals and priorities, super important. I also am a productivity nerd in addition to being a tech nerd. So my next one is about using productivity tools. Explore all the tools that are available to you. I actually have some in the resources that I'm going to provide in the document. There are some books that you can read, some blog posts, podcasts, if you're interested, that you can that helps to expose you to productivity tools that will help you manage your time and help you manage your tasks, any digital distractions. Again, we've talked about things like Trello and Asana. Those are great places to start, but you may find that you may need something that's more robust, or that may be just perfect to suit your needs. But just incorporating things like project management tools, task managers, browser extensions that can block distracting websites or limit social media usage. If you feel like you need something to help govern some of your behavior, because I know self-control can be challenging. Right? It is so much easier to scroll through TikTok than it is for me to work on that report that I don't want to work on, that I know is going to be painful. But if I can get a productivity tool or a system that might help me manage my time a little better, then that is going to be super helpful for keeping the main thing, like we just talked about. The next one is going to just kind of tick all the boxes and ring all the bells for you, Pat, because it's managing email effectively. It is a significant source of distraction. I heard at one point, and I thoroughly agree with this, that email is a to-do list that someone else gets to write on for you, and you don't have any say in it. And it may have zero alignment, and typically does, by the way, have zero alignment with your priorities and your goals. Remember, we talked about setting goals and priorities in the first bullet point. Now, here you have to figure out how to manage an email effectively so it doesn't become a distraction from your goals and from your priorities. So my recommendations on this one, the things that seem to work, are actually the most simple approaches. Establishing specific times during the day that you're going to check and respond to emails. And don't check it any more often than that. You might even want to put an out-of-office autoresponder on every single email and say, I check emails at 10 a.m., at 2 p.m., and at 6 p.m. I will try to respond to you within 48 hours of you sending your email. If you are communicating your expectations and your boundaries to somebody else, then they can clearly understand when they can expect a response from you. Email is asynchronous communication, which basically just means that they send it to you and they do not have the expectation that you're online grabbing it and responding back immediately. Email is not an instant message. It is not a text message. It is not a phone call. It is not an immediate communication medium. We have to control email, because email definitely has the potential to control us. Managing email effectively and giving your teams permission to manage their email effectively is so helpful, because how many of us have either worked with or for someone who has left us an email, and then the minute it hits our inbox, your phone is ringing. Hey, did you get my email? Well, no, Why would I have gotten your email? But if you can communicate with that person, my pet peeve was when I had a job where I was going into the office and I would come out after a commute that typically was about an hour and a half. One of my coworkers was very fond of sending me an email. And then before I'd even put my book bag on my briefcase down on my desk, she was like, "Did you get my email?" And I was like, I was on the road fighting traffic. So how could I possibly have gotten your email? And I haven't even had a chance to power up my laptop yet. So I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. But if you just give me a moment, let me settle myself in. I'm going to pick my brain up, put it all back together, and then I'm going to address your email. But the way you communicate with folks like that is by setting the expectation. I will check email at 10, 2, and 6, Monday through Friday. Did you send it to me outside of those hours? I haven't received it. And I need typically 48 hours to be able to get back a response to you. If it's more urgent, text me or call me or IM me or come by my office or do whatever you need to do so that we can communicate in a way that is appropriate for instantaneous feedback. Email is not it. So you got to train other people. And you also kind of have to train yourself too, because we have to resist the urge to jump on every chirping, chiming email that we see. Because, the devil is that little ghost that pops up at the bottom of your screen that says you have an email that came in. Turn that off. Mine's been off for years, and my life is better for it. Turn yours off too. I welcome you. So yes, effective email management. You can use different techniques, things like inbox zero, creating filters and labels. You said you've already done that, Pat. Unsubscribing from those unnecessary emails. Hit unsubscribe. We do not need all these emails. There are lots of services that also will do that for me. There was one great one that for a while, but then there were some privacy and data issues with it. So I don't necessarily recommend it. So I'm not going to say the name here. But one that's really good, although it's a paid service, is called SaneBox. And they basically have a service where they will basically cull through your emails and it's just artificial intelligence. And they try to do it to where you keep your information off of their servers. So they're not trying to process your data so that they don't have as many privacy concerns. But it's a service, like I said, it's called SaneBox. And that service allows you to essentially get an email of a daily digest, typically once a day. Mine comes in at 5 p.m. and it says, here are all of your what we think are your bulk emails. So basically, do you actually want these? Because these are like newsletters and other junk. You may not want these, or you may decide that you want to, it's Prime Day. You want to go look at whatever email that Amazon is sending you and see if you want to go shopping. Who knows? But this is in our bulk. So you can either delete it all, and I typically do. And then there's another one that's like newsletters. Okay, you might actually want to read news from this news source. And so it has a different folder for that. And there's another one called the same black hole, which means you don't want to unsubscribe for that service, because sometimes clicking unsubscribe just confirms that your email address exists and they send you more mail. Well, the same black hole, you never unsubscribe from anything. You just put it into the same black hole. You never see from that here or see that thing again. And it just keeps on coming in and it just keeps on going to the same black hole and you never deal with it. So there are services that are set up to help you do these things. I like SaneBox. I've used SaneBox for about 4 years. That's my preference. But again, it comes at a cost, so some people don't necessarily like that. But your built-in spam filters for your email services, like I said, like you said, Pat, labels, the inbox zero system. Also, one that I love to use to manage email is the 4Ds system, touching email one time, and then you do what you would normally do with like a piece of mail that comes to your regular mailbox outside of your house. You touch it once, but do you keep on, do you open your mail, that's your physical mail, your snail mail? Do you open it, read it, and then put it back in the mailbox? No, you don't do that. You figure out what to do with it. You throw it in the trash, or you pay the bill, or whatever you're doing with it. But you don't put the mail back in your mailbox. So why do we do that with emails? So touch emails once, and you can typically file 100% of your emails into 4Ds. You either do it in 2 minutes or less, If you cannot do it in 2 minutes or less, you defer it, i.e. put it on your to-do list with a very clear set of instructions for what needs to be done so that your mind later on down the line, your future self, you're kind to your future self by telling your future self exactly what needs to happen with that email. Oh, I need to read this and I need to respond to Pat about this presentation. I need to do that by Tuesday. So I'm going to put it on my task manager and it's going to be dated Tuesday. And I know that I need to respond to her by that day with whether I can attend or not. That's it. But I know that I need to check my calendar before that. So it's not a 2-minute task. So I need to defer it to my to-do list. So if you can't do it or defer it, you can delegate it to someone else. You should be using a lot of your delegation of emails to somebody else. There is somebody out there who can handle that email, who can answer that question, provide that information better, faster, more efficiently or effectively than you. Find that person and send them that email. Get rid of your emails, delegate them to somebody else. It helps increase our delegation skills and it gives someone else a growth opportunity as well, because sometimes these things are not things where we're able to add a whole lot of value because we may have evolved beyond it, or that's no longer our area of expertise, whatever. Someone else is better at that than you do. Let them do it. Share the love. We don't have to do everything ourselves. Delegate to one of them.
I don't know who it is, but there's some, I think it's in my Microsoft, my Office 365. If I haven't read an email, it will say you haven't read this. Do you want to unsubscribe? I go, yes. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that service is, but I really appreciate it.
If you can leverage all those tools that are part of your built-in emails, use them. This is a way that technology will serve you. Like I remember I said before, use technology to serve you, not the other way around. Use those tools. Use them. Learn about them. Go grab a YouTube video read an online article, something to just familiarize yourself with them, and then go use it. Use the tools. See if you like them. If you don't like them, it's probably no commitment. If you don't like them and they don't work for you, that's okay. Find something else, but use the tools. When it comes to managing those emails, like I said, you could do, defer, delegate. The last one, my favorite one, delete. Hit delete. Most of your email is junk. Throw it away. You don't have to keep that. You can either delete it or you can archive emails that you think you might need in the future, but you don't need just right away. Archive them. That's fine. Archive. Just get rid of the emails. Let's manage our emails effectively, because it is a huge time suck if you do not. Also, implement focused work sessions when it comes to managing distractions and overwhelm. So when I'm talking about this, I mean, dedicate uninterrupted blocks of time for focused work. Turn off your notifications during these times. Put your phone on silent. Use website blockers to prevent you from accessing distracting websites. Communicate to your colleagues, to your team, you're just not available for interruptions during these periods if it's at all possible. This helps us do the deep work that we need to do, especially when we are knowledge workers. If what you are paid for is to think, then you have got to give yourself time to do the thing that is your job. So try to find these focused work sessions and implement those into your life. I like something called the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro technique is a work rest type of timing system. And it typically asks you to do something for 25 minutes and then rest for 5 minutes. And by rest for 5 minutes, that means your timer goes off and I take off my glasses, I push away from the computer, and I make sure that I'm looking around the room. I like to get up and walk down the hallway because I work from home. But even if you're working in a on-site workspace, walk down the hallway, get some water, stretch your legs, and then in 5 minutes when the timer goes off again, go back to your desk and start working again. One, it's great for allowing you to focus, but two, it's great for eliminating procrastination, because that is my bugaboo. It's hard to get started, but if you can do anything for 25 minutes, that's a great way to get started. So Pomodoro technique, and there are plenty of Pomodoro timers in any app store. So just find those and implement those. It'll make a huge difference in your productivity. I love them. I do now 45-minute and 15 minutes breaks, but you can do whatever works for you. These timers are very customizable. They're great. So some sort of focused work session so that you can do the deep work that you need to do and that, quite frankly, you're paid to do, because you're not paid to check your emails. That much I can guarantee. Also, practice mindful monotasking. I know that people are like, what is monotasking? Well, it's exactly the opposite of multitasking. Multitasking is tempting, sure, but it leads to decreased productivity and your increased errors. You know how many errors we make when we try to do too many things at once. So complete a task at a time. Focus on one task at a time. Reach a significant milestone before moving on to the next task. It helps to improve your concentration, reduces the urge to constantly mode switch between different digital activities. So focus, monotasking, not multitasking.
Up in that hallway and didn't finish that task.
What's that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Okay. That's no problem. I thought I heard you say something about finishing a task. And I said, oh, let me hop on that question. That sounds like a
I
good
was
one.
just sharing with my daughter
Yes.
that she had started a task and she left everything where she started. And I say, you need to complete a task once you started. So that was great.
Amen. So, okay, my timing is perfect then. Okay, great. We also want to make sure that we're communicating boundaries and expectations. Remember how I told you, you got to be able to communicate to other people that you're going to be checking your emails, for example, at 10, 2, and 6. Communicate those boundaries to other people. Set your availability and your response times to colleagues, your clients, your team members. Set those expectations regarding response time for emails, messages, any digital communications. When you set boundaries, you reduce pressure on yourself to be constantly available. You ensure that you have dedicated work time and you teach other people how to treat you. Boundaries and expectations are a sanity saver. Use them. Also, schedule regular breaks. Remember, I told you Pomodoro timers because it's a work rest timer back and forth for multiple sessions during the day. Absolutely. Taking breaks is essential. We all know that. You can't maintain your focus and your productivity working, from sun up to sundown. So schedule those short breaks to rest and recharge, step away from your digital devices, stretch, take a walk, engage in an activity that's going to relax you and refresh your mind, sharpen your axe, right? That's the old story that we've all heard. And then also foster a culture of mindful technology use. Give yourself and the people around you permission to use technology mindfully. Share strategies, tools. Heck, give them the strategies you're learning today. Give these tools to your team so that they can help manage their digital distractions as well. Empower them to be well by reducing digital distractions and eliminating digital overwhelm. Consider meeting norms within your team, like device-free meetings or establishing quiet hours where everyone's going to be able to minimize interruptions. And in common, we have these hours where we're just not interrupting each other to add to the noise that every one of us is experiencing. I have seen organizations have tried to do meeting-free Fridays because Lord knows meetings are the bane of almost everybody's existence. And especially when they're not productive or great meetings, try to eliminate them. See how many ways you can brainstorm amongst your team using some of these collaboration tools to eliminate the distractions and help people be more well at work so that they know how to implement those same wellness tools and techniques into their personal lives and every other facet of their lives. And then finally, continuously learn and adapt. Always be growing, always be learning. Stay informed about new productivity techniques and new tools that can help manage digital distractions. Don't let this be the last time you talk about it or engage in thinking about it. Regularly evaluate what you're doing, your strategies that you're using. Make adjustments based on what works best for you. Take what works, leave the rest. Don't feel the need to conform to what anybody else is saying is best. You know what works, and you should be able to listen to your inner voice about what is working effectively for you and what is not. Experiment with different approaches. Find a system that enhances your productivity and your well-being. And if it doesn't, leave it alone. Its feelings are not going to get hurt. So just know that optimizing your technology is a personal journey. It's going to require trial and error, and it's going to require the investment of time to find out what works best for you. You want to be collaborating and communicating with your colleagues, your supervisor, your teams, because that also can be helpful in providing the supportive work environment that you need that values the focused work that you're trying to bring about, not just for yourself, but for people on your team. And everyone is trying to minimize digital distractions. So let's all work together to do that. So I believe that is about the end of the information I was going to share with you. Let's see. So I've toggled over to my notes page. And in this notes page is going to be a QR code over to the left. And that's going to give you this leave behind document for this presentation, plus the presentation itself. And I'm going to correct the error that I have. I have a typo on one of the pages that I was talking about a few minutes ago. I'm going to correct that typo, and I'm going to repost the attachment into the notes that I have. So you'll have all my slides, and you'll have some additional notes just by scanning that QR code. And I'm also going to copy, well, if I can, I'm going to copy this notes document. I think I know how to do this. And I'm going to put it into, yes, I'm going to put it into the chat, just so you have that.
Awesome. All right, while you're doing that, I really appreciate this. Every time I hear Yvonne talk, I learn something new. I have a mantra that I will always go to bed smarter than I was when I got up. And each time I talk to her, she gives me something new. And I'm going, when I leave her presentations, I always go online researching and looking for things like the last time I had links, trying to do the business cards. And it's just amazing how you can use QR codes or business cards instead of having to print them. So I really appreciate her. This has been a phenomenal third week. We have 2 more weeks. I think 1 more week as a speaker. Then we're going to do presentations on the dimensions of diversity. A lot of people don't know about the dimensions of diversity, especially with what's going on in today's society. It's pretty cool. So without further ado, if there's any questions, you can chat me, text me, but I love and I appreciate you all being here. This is phenomenal, and I certainly want to bring Yvonne back, hopefully when I can get some space and we can do a presentation in face so she can walk around and be like a teacher. So thank you very much. Thank you. And you have a great rest of your day. I am very mindful of time. So thank you very much. And I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Let's see. So, Ms. Pat, I have that link in the chat just in case anybody needs that. And do you know if that is retained? I'm not quite sure. Is that retained? Is there like on a webinar? Is that link retained?
Yeah, it says save chat. I have it. I have a save card. Yeah, I just clicked on save chat. And this is the video, so I do have it. And just in case, I have it, copied it, and I put it on my notepad.
Okay.
All right?
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Well, I
Thank
appreciate
you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Where it says save chat?